And welcome, Oki, Tansi, Danitara, Ambawashtich, and Segan. So I just want to welcome everyone to the 2024 annual journey update for taa'poh'to'p at the University of Calgary. My name is Wade Maud. I am the Indigenous Relations Specialist with the Schulich School of Engineering here at the University of Calgary. To start today's conversation in a good way, I would also like to acknowledge that the University of Calgary is located in the heart of southern Alberta, in the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai, as well as the Tsuut'ina Nation, and the nations of the Stoney Nakoda, the Chiniki, the Goodstoney, and the Bearspaw. And we would also like to acknowledge that this is the home of the Métis Nations of Region 5 and 6. So welcome everybody on this land and this place we strive to learn together, walk together, and grow together. So I would like to ask everybody to please stand, those who are able, for the grand entry. We have President Ed McCauley. Get the mic up. We have President Ed McCauley carrying the University of Calgary flag, along with Clarence Waltz as the Canadian flag. Reg Crowshoe carrying the Blackfoot Confederacy flag, Jonathan Brewer with the Alberta flag. Goodstoney is being carried by Stacey Christensen. Chiniki First Nation is Oli Benjamin. The Bearspaw First Nation by Lonnie Dixon. The Tsuut'ina First Nation flag is being carried by Karen McDonald. Our Métis flag by Yvonne Poitras-Pratt. And the Inuit ITK flag by Norma Jeremica-Gressel. Thank you. And we will go on with the flag song and victory song. Okay. So we would kindly ask everybody to remain standing, and at this time I would also like to invite the Eahe Nakota to perform the U of Calgary Honor Song. Elder Rod Hunter gifted the University of Calgary with this special honor song in 2018. Elder Rod is a Stoney Nakoda traditional knowledge keeper and renowned traditional singer, so it's a privilege for the university to be gifted this song. Thank you very much, and please be seated. And would also, at this point, join me in welcoming Dr. Reg Crowshoe and Dr. Rose Crowshoe from the Piikani First Nation. Elders Reg and Rose Crowshoe are traditional knowledge keepers, cultural advisors to the Indigenous Strategy of taa'poh'to'p, and members of our circle of advisors. Today, they also serve as the ceremonial leaders for our annual report event. So when Dr. Reg is ready, I invite him to the microphone to open our event in a good way with a traditional blessing and a smudge.
Okay, Nick, okay, connection, much in a Christi. Okay, I just want to invite and welcome everybody here today. It's always good to acknowledge Creator and all the gifts we get from Creator, even the gift of coming together, the gift of the report, the gift of elders, gift of veterans, the gift of friends and relatives coming to visit. Those are all gifts we always enjoy. So we'll acknowledge Creator when he gets the smudge going. Okay. It's bad up here. Would not be not do. Okay, dance Kachimadan Kishkanot. Okay, Spumukinana no jet canipio cheese pina. I'm streak Shayak, Chinicatu, Miawanica, Manistapo, Taxmanka, Streak, Mantuto. Spumu South Chipata Pio Mahita Machinicatu, Sawanicota Taxo. Okay, I'm straight, make a straight. Strip, I'm straight. I'm straight you there. And you don't support when you caxima. Spumu South Chipata Piabaki, Tamaka in the Miamachichin, each nexa. Oh, caps the toki, Spumukinan. I'm straight, she's got no to touch max. Macapim Scato Sawanik. Gadasuka, because Chipata Piopenicacinix in Mahita Machinicatusa. Oh, Gigacoxis Catopia, Camutan, Nesta Watchman, Yaxipata. Okay. I just want to talk a bit about the format we're using. We're looking at how in our homes, our communities, how we would tell stories and how we would talk about what societies are doing and how they inform the community. We're taking the same format. But in order to we start with the smudge, the prayer. But one big thing we have is what we call 4 stories. Sometimes they call them coop stories. But these stories are told to give direction, give a good way of doing things through the ceremony to the event. So everybody can take home good stories. Huh? So we'll introduce the stories.
So the name of the program is Niitsitapisni, Our Way of Life program, and it is a land-based studies program. It was created in partnership between Workland School of Education and the Blood Tribe, a group of elders from the Blood Tribe. And the program has 4 courses, 2 of which are Blackfoot language courses, and the other 2 being art and storytelling, and history and politics of the Blackfoot people. The uniqueness of this program is that it is land-based, and so we have had courses run in both Siksika and Gana, which are 2 Blackfoot tribes. And so the students are engaging in their learning right on the land. They are learning through myself as their educator, but I'm also being mentored, and they are being mentored by elders, different elders that connect with them on the various topics that we are covering. So they are engaging in authentic Blackfoot ways of knowing. So there's lots of studies that have been done on indigenizing education, and for the most part, most researchers that are non-Indigenous don't necessarily know what authentic education means. It's really different to come from theory to actually being right in the practice. And by having Indigenous Blackfoot people lead these programs, we are on the right path towards an authentic way of learning for all people. The program isn't geared to just Blackfoot people. It's geared towards teaching Blackfoot pedagogy to everybody. Anybody that's interested in learning through a Blackfoot model is welcome to participate in these courses.
Dancy, Michael Hart, Tatistikasun. I'm Michael Hart, the Vice-Provost of Indigenous Engagement here at the University of Calgary. Creating an annual report for our Indigenous Strategy is a way to acknowledge and celebrate taa'poh'to'p's growth. This report is offered to the community in a written format, capturing highlights from our annual journey towards reconciliation as a guide by taa'poh'to'p in November of each year, marking the launch date of the Indigenous Strategy in 2017. In parallel, we offer our oral report in March of each year. We offer the oral report at this time, recognizing the spring equinox with a tea dance ceremony where we share our experiences of this past year. The story of our progress, aligning with the theme of the annual report this year, it is Circle of Relatives, is told through a symbol, which will be announced at the tea dance and then added to the taa'poh'to'p winter count buffalo robe. This way of sharing the story of taa'poh'to'p honors our parallel path towards reconciliation. I offer this story in honor of taa'poh'to'p and our collective journey towards reconciliation.
The university's strategy outlines our goals for connecting with the community, including the importance of Indigenous engagement as well as external partnerships. The question for us became, how could we work together, bring more partnerships into our Indigenous engagement work, and bring more Indigenous engagement work into our partnership work. As we discussed these ideas, a couple of key opportunities emerged that we approached some community partners with to see what we could work together on.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Galloway, President and CEO of Heritage Park. Heritage Park is proud to be telling inclusive stories about Alberta's past. That's why we're so pleased to have partnered with the University of Calgary on Campfire Chats. These popular concerts not only showcase the unique expertise of both of our organizations, but they provide an awesome opportunity for thousands of Calgarians who want to experience Indigenous culture in the spirit of celebration. Campfire Chats create a huge benefit for our community, and we're very proud to have partnered with the University of Calgary. Thank you.
Oki, Ambawastich, Danita Stada, Tanshe, hello. I'm Sarah Mueller, the CEO of Calgary Public Library. At the library, we have a responsibility to share the true history of Indigenous peoples with our communities. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission's Call to Action 69 specifically asks libraries to re-examine their commitment to truth and reconciliation. It's together with partners like the University of Calgary that we are doing this work. Together, we have been able to elevate Indigenous voices and give the community an opportunity to reflect and learn. This partnership began almost 5 years ago during the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as 2 virtual events has expanded into a series of programs every September that brings together over 1,500 community members. By making these programs accessible and available to our community, we are able to share more voices, share more stories from those with lived experiences, and share the true history of the land we live on. We're so grateful for the collaboration and partnership with the University of Calgary.
Creating and maintaining community partnerships help further our collective journey towards reconciliation through education, as recommended by the final report on Truth and Reconciliation and guided by the UCalgary Indigenous Strategy taa'poh'to'p. By expanding our circle of relatives with community-centered organizations like the Calgary Public Library and Heritage Park, we are able to connect with the broader community on impactful public programs. Programs that celebrate Indigenous culture, but also share important truths about the impact of the residential school system in Canada.
We offer this story in honor of a taa'poh'to'p and our collective journey towards reconciliation.
In the spring of 2024, UCalgary launched a hybrid learning program called URise Indigenous that enhances Indigenous perspectives and encourages intercultural capacity building for staff and for faculty. Created by the Office of Indigenous Engagement in partnership with UCalgary People and Culture, URise Indigenous aims to enhance learning and understanding of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, cultures, and worldviews.
The program offers 20 hours of in-person and online learning, culminating in a digital certificate. URise Indigenous facilitators hope to spark further progress towards truth and reconciliation within the university. By participating in URise Indigenous workshops, learners can discuss their experiences and share their emotions in a safe environment with a smaller circle of learners. We invite faculty and staff to take URise Indigenous to reflect and learn about the Indigenous ways of knowing, doing, connecting, and being with the goal of fostering meaningful relationships with Indigenous peoples and communities.
Okay. Ambawastich, Danenstada, Tanse, Sego for our MC. We're or I don't know where he is. Hello, everybody. I'm grateful for this opportunity to stand here with you. Thank you, Elder Reg, for calling those powerful stories we've just heard. I would like to offer gratitude to our traditional knowledge keepers and storytellers and all those responsible for moving us forward in our journey. These stories are part of our parallel oral processes and align to our annual journey update report through visionary circles, these being ways of knowing, ways of doing, ways of connecting, and ways of being. It's with deep respect for my family, my elders, and the land that I join you today. My name is Dr. Michael Hart. I usually drop the doctor part, but I'm the Vice-Provost and the Associate Vice President Research for Indigenous Engagement here at the University of Calgary. I come from Fish River Cree Nation. I've been fortunate enough to spend much time with the elders who came before me, both from my own community and from afar, and in these past 6 years from the elders in this region. I'm honored to be here with you today as we reflect on and celebrate the progress of the University of Calgary's Indigenous Strategy. In recognition of all that the elders have provided for us and those who have journeyed forward ahead of us, I want to take a moment to honor the late Justice Murray Sinclair. Justice Sinclair was a trailblazer in Indigenous advocacy and reconciliation. As the chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, he led the nation in uncovering the painful truths of residential school systems and its ongoing impacts. Through his leadership, Justice Sinclair brought forward the stories of survivors and emphasized the importance of truth as a foundation for reconciliation. His work has inspired countless individuals and institutions, including our own university, to take meaningful steps towards reconciliation. As we reflect on his remarkable legacy, let us carry forward the teachings and the truths he championed. I invite everybody to join me in a moment of silence to honor Justice Murray Sinclair's enduring contribution to our collective journey. Thank you, everybody. I would also like to recognize everyone who opened up our event today in a good way. In particular, I want to acknowledge the elders who are able to join us today. And I ask your forgiveness as we sometimes still figuring things out on our journey. So I thank you all for the elders particularly walking with us. It's wonderful to see so many of you here as we celebrate the 2024 Journey Update event report titled Circle of Relatives. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our elders, community leaders, special guests, students, faculty, staff members, and community partners. I welcome you all. This year marks the 7th year of taa'poh'to'p. By gathering to reflect and celebrate, we bear witness to our collective journey and renew the University of Calgary's commitment to truth and reconciliation through education. Our theme, Circle of Relatives, reminds us of the interconnectedness we share. It's not just about acknowledging our shared histories, but walking together, supporting, learning, and growing as relatives. Before we continue, I'd like to take a moment to recognize and thank Dr. Penny Werthner, our former interim provost and vice president, who, with her guidance and her involvement, walked with us for this past year in this role, rather. Dr. Werthner has been a tremendous advocate for Indigenous engagement and has played an instrumental role in advancing taa'poh'to'p, our Indigenous strategy. Her leadership and dedication to creating a more inclusive and supportive environment have left a lasting impact on our university community. On behalf of everyone here, I extend my deepest gratitude to Dr. Werthner for her invaluable contributions. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome our new provost and vice president, Dr. Sandra Davidson. who has joined us with an incredible passion for education, inclusion, and reconciliation. I could say fully that she comes with such a compassionate and warm heart and welcoming all of us. We look forward to the continued growth and progress of taa'poh'to'p under her leadership. Today's gathering also includes a significant cultural observance, the transfer of a taa'poh'to'p pipe bag, which includes the mandate and previous reports for the Indigenous Strategy. This pipe bag represents inherited governance knowledge and our commitment in an ongoing manner. This ceremony reflects the ongoing journey of reciprocity, respect, and renewal that lies at the heart of our strategy. The transfer of our governance bundle is a powerful reminder of the responsibilities we share and the connections that unite us. It symbolizes the transfer of this commitment and mandate to Provost Sandra Davidson, recognizing both the work completed and the work still to come as we strive towards a more inclusive and connected community. Through our Indigenous strategy, we reaffirm our commitment to these relationships and to creating a stronger, more inclusive future. I would like now to invite Elder Reg Crowshoe to begin the ceremony and share, if you're so open to share your wisdom.
Okay. I just want to ask Rod gave the song to the university, but it also goes with the goals and objectives for the Indigenous Engagement. So we'll ask for 2 starts on the song, then we can open it and we can put the new report in and take the old one out. And just put it on. Oh, kakita makain. Namaste. Okay, at this time, we're going to have somebody look after, be responsible for the pipe or for the goals and objectives for the University of Calgary. So at this time, I'll ask Sandra to offer the pipe to Mike, Dr. Hart, in asking to look after the bundle. So you could just go around and give him the pipe And 2 of you share the pipe. Go around that side. Yeah. In our way, asking to look after, be responsible for something, we usually give a pipe. So she'll offer a pipe to him. He'll accept. But if he doesn't accept, that means you don't look after. Okay. Just light it for him. Light the. Use a match to light the pipe. In our way, if we're going to ask for something, to look after something, then we usually use the pipe. And it is our way that if somebody doesn't accept the pipe, that means the agreement didn't happen. So 2 of you will share the pipe. And, okay. Domejinska. Taa'poh'to'p. Gam striksi tämä taa'poh'to'mochi. Aja kumandis taa'poh'to'miam striksi mopistani. Krahkum naatu'itapio. Kaayu no hohtimiska sakina alkristi kuik. Gahki taamanis taasiwani kutomuk sapstiman. Anjai. 4 corners. Aga kuksina. Yeah. You want to take the blanket and we'll put it on her. Okay. Come up here instead. In our way, the old timers would say, when you take over responsibility, the blanket is what we wrap ourselves in. The bundle is information that we use to make decisions. But when it's transferred to you, the old people would say, you're being transferred that bundle of information. So we give our robes to wrap them up in so that they use the robes every time they go into a ceremony or when they're going to the event for the taa'poh'to'p. Taa'poh'to'p. Aki tama koksin na sti. Han khaguma da papu da kiwa kaskachim am stia mopistan an. Okay. Hart, come here. Kapstok. Kishpumu Christikui. I'm Stichi Machotoki Kishanika. Okay, now you're part of the ceremony and the group that for the ceremony. Now that you got the bracelet and the robe, the shawl. Anya, give me your hand. Anya. Hey, 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 oh, hey, 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 oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, 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 oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, kishpumu sabstoyan hakumada utumatsu anixi. No, taa'poh'to'p is taa'poh'to'p. Ayos pumus. Ano yung stop anis to tuayan? Now you're official. You can have a seat.
Send it.
Anna, we're gonna.
Congratulations, now you're official.
Okay. Stand here. Okay, you'll give it to her, but when we get to that corner, hold on, I better get my.
Yeah.
taa'poh'to'p.
I need one of those. Too much glare.
Four corners. Okay. You stand this way. Face it. In our oral ways, when we gathered to make decisions and transfer knowledge and transfer information, we didn't write. So we had our ceremonies. In our ceremonies, the smudge, the four actions, the pipe, the language are all important to be a part of that ceremony, because our actions give the authority to the goals and objectives to carry it on. So that's why through our oral practices and the songs are physical documentation of authorities that are given to this bundle of vision and mission, but also the university song gives it also that jurisdiction. And then we look at our songs here that reinforces the goals and objectives of the goals for the Indigenous engagement here at the University of Calgary. So this is our oral, formal way of transferring leadership, knowledge, information through our venue, action, language, and song. Hanya. No, just give it to her.
Good. Thank you, everybody, for bearing witness of this transfer, and thank you to all those engaged. I'm now pleased to introduce Jonathan Brewer, the Cultural Protocols Specialist in our Office of Indigenous Engagement. Jonathan comes to us from the blood Reserve in southern Alberta, and brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in Indigenous relations, cultural practices, protocols, and movie stardom. Today, he will provide us with an overview of this year's progress, highlighting the important steps we've taken together on our journey towards reconciliation and shared understandings. Welcome, Jonathan.
Okay. My name is Jonathan Brewer. My Indigenous name is taa'poh'to'p. Thank you very much for the introduction. And hello everyone. On behalf of the Office of Indigenous Engagement team, I am honored to share select highlights from the 2024 taa'poh'to'p Journey Update Report titled Circle of Relatives. Ways of Knowing. Over 10 million in research funding received by the University of Calgary in 2023 and 2024 in support of Indigenous research, bringing the totals to 42 million since 2018. UCalgary welcomed Indigenous scholar Dr. Deborah McGregor to the Faculty of Arts and Sciences as a Canadian Excellence Research Chair in Indigenous Climate and Water Sustainability for Planetary Health and Well-Being. Through in-depth, meaningful consultation, Indigenous elders offer traditional knowledge to help shape and inform the new on-campus mental health and well-being strategy, the Sustainability Action Plan, and the Landscape Plan. Ways of Doing. The Office of Indigenous Engagement, in partnership with the Library Resource, completed a digital repository for the story of taa'poh'to'p. In partnership with Human Resource, the Office of Indigenous Engagement hosted a special ceremony to welcome new Indigenous scholar to our campus community. In March of 2024, the Office of Indigenous Engagement hosted its annual tea dance ceremony, the new cultural symbol to the taa'poh'to'p winter count, which is displayed here. And it's to validate the 2023 annual report update report, which is in the bundle, Becoming Relatives, and to capture the story of our collective journey through the parallel process that honors oral traditions. Ways of Connecting. For National Indigenous Peoples Day, the University of Calgary, in partnership with the Heritage Park, hosted Campfire Chats in 2024. A celebration of Indigenous music featured Armin Duck Chief, Craig Ginn, Olivia Tailfeathers, Ihei Nakota, and the Denby Family Fiddlers. For National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, also known as Orange Shirt Day, the university, in partnership with the Calgary Public Library, hosted the flag lowering ceremony, keynote address, and Michelle Good in a screening of Bones and Crows. To deepen the connection and to place several ceremonies led by elders were hosted to bless and validate the new spaces and places at the University of Calgary, including the naming of the new student gathering spaces in the Schulich Engineering, the new outdoor student meditation space, and the building and landscape at the facility of the veterinary medicine at Spy Hill campus. Ways of Being. In partnership with Human Resources, the Office of Indigenous Engagement launched URise, Indigenous as Professional Development Program, in support of intercultural capacity building, learning opportunities for the campus community. Continuing Education launched a new comprehensive professional development certified titled Towards Truth and Reconciliation to help guide individuals and leaders from various organizations to begin their reconciliation journey. In total, over 10,000 individuals took part in intercultural capacity building learning opportunities to further their individual journeys on the path towards reconciliation. Thank you everyone for your commitment to taa'poh'to'p and our journey. It is now my pleasure to introduce the University of Calgary's president, Ed McCauley, whose unwavering support for the Indigenous Strategy has been instrumental in advancing our commitment to reconciliation. President McCauley, thank you for your dedication in creating a more inclusive, supporting environment for all, for ensuring that Indigenous engagement remains at the forefront of our institute mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan, and welcome everybody. My Blackfoot gifted name is taa'poh'to'p, which means knowledge one's leader. It's a very, very humbling name because every day I wake up and think about how I can help and support my family of 45,000 in thinking about truth and reconciliation and walking our parallel path. 7 years ago, the University of Calgary embarked upon a taa'poh'to'p, our Indigenous strategy, to guide us on our path in a good way towards reconciliation. And we are here today for an update on our journey thus far. Earlier this year, I had the honor of attending University of Calgary's largest ever Indigenous graduation ceremony. It was remarkable to see the love and the respect that our students have for the elders as they move on their next stage of their journey. I think we're going to have to build a bigger building to house the Indigenous celebration of our convocation because I think we're above fire capacity that day. Anyway, just saying. And over the last year, as Jonathan mentioned, more than 10.5 million in new research grants focused on Indigenous community-based research were awarded, bringing the total to 42 million since 2018. And another 43 million was distributed to almost 433 self-identified Indigenous students. Those are big numbers, and that's important. But what's really important is that each year we increasingly embrace and promote Indigenous histories, cultures, and worldviews, such as in One Child, Every Child, and our initiative, the largest ever grant awarded to a Western Canadian university, one that will help us improve health outcomes for children and youth, with more than 20 Indigenous-led, community-based research programs. Our Piikani elder, Dr. Rosemary Crowshoe, the true force in this room, an advisor in the Office of Indigenous Engagement, was awarded an honorary Doctor of Laws in May for her contribution to Indigenous community engagement. And I know that many of the people in this room were here on that day, and the words you used that day, Rose, were just so powerful. And I know our students really felt it in their heart, the messages that you were sending to them in terms of on their next stage in their journey. So thank you so much for honoring us on that stage. And Métis Elder, yes, thank you, Rose. And Métis Elder, Dr. Carrie Moore, received her honorary degree during convocations this November, not long ago, and it was great to hear Carrie give her words of wisdom and going forward. So we continue our journey and commitment to create a reciprocal space for Indigenous peoples, voices, and knowledge systems. And we continue to maintain strong relationships and deepen partnerships with Indigenous communities and organizations, and provide more intercultural capacity learning opportunities for the campus community. And this is really important because it furthers our individual and collective journey towards reconciliation. The University of Calgary and the people here today remain committed to supporting the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action, including education that honors Indigenous knowledge. And community celebrations like today's serve as a powerful reminders of the importance of continuing our journey, always in a good way, in respect, understanding, and commitment. And I'm really grateful to have Elder Reg Crowshoe's guidance in teaching me about relations. I've learned a lot, and I continue to learn a lot every day when I'm with Reg. But you were not here to listen to me, so far better that I turn the proceedings over to today's keynote speaker. Willie Ermine is from the Sturgeon Lake First Nation in northern Saskatchewan and Professor Emeritus at the First Nations University of Canada. We welcome him to the University of Calgary. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I acknowledge all of you, first of all, to the President, Ed, Sandra, Provost, and Michael, and of course, Reg and Rose. Reg and I go a long ways, in fact, centuries, and our people have, we have encountered each other over the centuries. And 1840, just to give you an example, circa 1840, 1850, we got our first horse, the Cree people from the Piikani or the Blackfoot people. So we got our first horse at that time, and we gave them a gun for that, right? Reg, we still have that horse. But it's an honor for me to be here today, and I just love what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling. You know, that there's so much happening here that I think I feel very comfortable to provide my talk, and I want to get into this what I call our gifted spaces, because I think that's the unspoken truth about what's happening in this room and in this university, and in fact in other spaces in Canada. I call this gifted spaces, and it concerns, let me get this first here. Gifted spaces is about the real nature. I think the real nature of our encounters. You know, in this country, we've encountered each other. Different cultures have encountered each other through time. Some of you might have read a paper called The Ethical Space, and that was written in with this idea that there were clashing cultures and there were engagements and encounters happening between people and cultures and institutions and so forth. I come from an education background, and I want to honor the education we had. We have to, as teachers, educators, we have to provide objectives, right? So what you're seeing on screen is the objective of this talk today. As we go into this idea of the ethical space, sort of the crash course to summarize, you know, many times I've written about it, thought about it, and those people that have talked about it through discourse, you know, academic papers and different initiatives, we all wonder, what is it? What is it? It's very nebulous. It's very much a spiritual idea, but it's very nebulous, and you can't really pinpoint what it is we're talking about. And I'm in the same boat, and I still struggle with that idea. But the ethical space really concerns our interior resources. As human beings, you know, the color in this room is not any different from one to another. We're not talking about colors or nations, but we're talking about humanity. As human beings, we are very gifted people. We have gifts that were given to us, and that's what really I want to talk about and mention. I want to talk about the value-added presence that we all carry with us. And in this room, you know, I thank Reg and Rose and the president and Michael and you know, the whole gang of the Indigenous Strategy. I didn't mean call you a gang, but you know, you know, the team. I mean, this is really wonderful what you're doing at this university. When we talk about the ethical space, we know we're talking about encounters of people. You can think about your spouse right at this moment. You know, as you go home for supper tonight, sit across the table from your spouse and just wonder what kind of a person that other is, you know, your spouse. Analyze them at that point and see how much you know, how much, you know, your encounter has produced in the two of you. So when we're talking about ethical space, the way it's been written, it's about the real energies, the interior energies that we have, that encounter. That's where the real impacts are happening. And that's how the ethical space was written about. It's not only between individuals, but it's also, as Reg demonstrates with his art and his intention that we are involved with nature as well, the environment. And more so, according to the ceremony that we saw today, it's a very spiritual thing that we're immersed in. So the real energies between people involve all these other entities, that it's not just me and you and superficial naming of each other. There's some deeper stuff happening, and that's what the ethical space tried to talk about. And in our way, it's not to benefit so much from the encounter, but how we, as human beings who've been taught in a good way by our traditions and our teachings, that we must, in this encounter that we have, enrich and gratify the one that we meet, that we encounter. How do we do that? And so these are all philosophical issues that our nations, our old people back home, I remember talking about these things as if it's just dinner table talk, you know. They're not elaborate philosophical concepts. There's something that we talked about every day, that they talked about in just regular terms, that this is how we are, this is humanity. So this ethical space, we know by now, at least trying to get the idea across, that it's very influential, this idea of this energy that happens when we encounter, or when institutions encounter, or when nations encounter, or knowledge systems encounter. So this is all the things that we struggle with in this country, to try to resolve, and reconciliation somehow comes in, as a word comes into the picture, to try and name this event that is happening in our humanity. What I want to present then, I want you to keep track of time for me. I don't want to, go too beyond what I've been given. In this country, commissions, royal commissions, and all kinds of studies have pointed to this idea that, those poor Aboriginal people, those poor Indigenous people, they've been harmed. Look at all these things that have happened through colonization. And then we have our own people latching on to this idea that we have to talk about our identity and existence in these terms of having been damaged. And we start to talk in public about the damage that's been done. And that has to be, we have to make corrections in institutions and everything else, that there is parity. So this is the discourse. We've been kind of led into this kind of a trap of a discourse where it's colonization and it's harm discourse, that we talk about the injuries and we speak from those rock bottom injury damaged places, that, that we are caught up in that kind of a discourse because of all these commissions, these studies that have happened looking at us as damaged people, and we need help. It's not pity that we ask for. It's parity, it's recognition. And so we want to turn this kind of a harmful deficit discourse around and look at what is the optimum of people, what is the optimum of our humanity. And that presents a new paradigm. It's about emergent possibilities, and it's very strength-based. The things that we saw this morning, that's a part of it. It's a long-term thing. There is no instant gratification with any of these emergent possibilities. It's us as human beings sitting here. We decide how these will unfold. We cannot look to the policies or the institutions of the past that have been developed in the heyday of colonialism that still are embedded across the nation, that we have to follow those kinds of prescriptions in how we do humanity, how we do institutions, how we do education. Those were developed in the heyday of colonialism. And we have to somehow, as human beings, we're the ones that can change those things. The policies and the regulations of institutions have no heart. They have no soul. You can't talk to them. But as human beings, as actors in here, in these configurations, we have the potential to make those grand changes happen. And that's what we want to talk about. So in the creation narrative, creation, people say, well, creation happened now billions and billions of years ago, and it ended. Then life just unfolds according to creation. Well, I tend to differ, but creation never really ended. It never really ended. When the humans came into the picture, we had the responsibility, given the responsibility that we have to continue the creation. And so today, as we sit here, we have this obligation, responsibility to continue to create. And what to create is the question. We've been seeing that this morning. We want to create. This bundle is there, and the intention is there that we are going to create something beautiful. And of course, that we have to think about what is it that's going to help us achieve this intention, this creation that we have to do. Giftedness comes into the picture, and giftedness is it's not a Christmas gift, you get a little box, It's very, very sacred. I heard Reg talk about sacred this morning. It's a very sacred thing. We are all gifted people here, no doubt about it. Just being born is a gift. We're all gifted people. I don't know how many people there are in the audience. Svetlana, do you have an idea?
200.
Yeah, how many people here?
200.
Just rough.
200? Yeah, 200.
Huh? 200. In the way of giftedness of a population of 200 people, given any population, 20% of that population is highly, intensely gifted beyond the normal. When you talk about high sensitivity and giftedness, that 20% of any population, and it could apply to gophers as well. The gophers, 20% of the population are gifted. They're the ones that are looking around. It's the same with geese. Geese, 20% of the population. There are some that never eat. All they do is look around. And those are the gifted ones, the white-tailed deer. And so in the human population, 20% are gifted. And what is that giftedness that is being referenced or referred to? These, I think, are the tangible kind of realistic things that we might be able to manipulate. Might not be a good term, because how do you work with ethical space when it's nebulous, it's unseen? I don't know how to move energies. I can't see them. So what are the resources that we have as human beings that help us to move the energies we can't see? How do we create an energy in this room and be able to move energies in this room in such a way that there is an understanding happening in this room and that the intention of that bundle is going to unfold into the future? It's not an administrative act. It's not a policy decision. It is something much more profound. And each and every one of us here are sitting with this potential that we can offer, we can use, we can demonstrate. So in value additions, for example, just to start giving you a construct this idea in our creation narrative, the value additions when we were put on earth, one thing that was the most compassionate being in the whole universe, the Creator, Semanto is our Cree term. the most compassionate being in the universe took a piece of its compassion and gave it to everybody. All the animals, all the trees, all the grass, the sky, everything, clouds, people. And then the mystery, the most mysterious thing in the whole universe, the Creator again, took a piece of its mystery and gave it to everyone. So when we're born, we are born with these virtues, attributes. The most mysterious thing puts a mystery into each one of us. And that's a very powerful tool. Then we have the strength, the most powerful being in the universe, taking a piece of its strength and giving it to us. Imagine that. This is the creation narrative. Imagine having these. And so when we look at a picture like this, we don't need words. Every one of you will have a different description of what's happening here. Many of you will feel it. Many of you will know exactly. You can construct your story. You can construct a narrative out of this. You can write an academic paper out of this. And you would never run out of words to talk about what this painting by Ellen Sapp portrays. But when we talk about giftedness, we take heightened senses. For example, high sensing. That's being pathologized in our society. That people with high sensing, meaning that they can feel other people. They can feel if that dog is going to bite them or not. They can feel if it's going to rain. They can feel this pipe. They can feel. They can sense. High sensing has been a big problem in our schools, and it's usually happening with young people. Because this high giftedness happens with young people, then it wanes around just before the teenage years, and it comes back up when you're getting really old. But a high sensing child in school can sit with somebody who's angry, and they extract or they can sense what's happening, and they get angry and they don't know where the anger comes from, and they act it out in the school, and guess where they're sent to the principal, and the principal puts them down as behavior child. There's a mental health problem here, and that's how we start to get these statistics of pathology in our communities, because these giftedness were not recognized, that the high sensing was not recognized as the main reason for that. So heightened senses, empathy, compassion, attraction, intensity of awareness, these are all traits that we all have at certain measure, But this is where the idea of giftedness enters the picture. So in that creation narrative, it talks about the enriched life, right from the beginning. An enriched life. And iwi'o'tak. Iwi'o'tak is the creation part of it. Iwi'o'tak is the abundance part of it. And where was that abundance stored? How do we engage with that abundance that is the promise in the creation narrative and in the words in fact? And so when we start to look at our own gifted nature, the different attributes that we all have, we come up with things like dreams. Dreams is a really important part of our Aboriginal Indigenous cultures. That is the guiding system that we have. It's the communication we have with these other worlds. They're real, and then they guide us, and they show us, and they tell us. And we have visioning, for example. We have seers in a community that have these, again, intense giftedness that our old people have always honored these people in our communities. Many times the old people who can see the future and tell us about the future and what to prepare for. And it's not a learned attribute from an education system. It's a gift. People are given certain gifts to work and to enhance the population. Intuition You know, where does that come from? How do we work with that? How do we understand that? All of us have our own intuition. And what are the education systems that teach us about intuition? Where is the curriculum that teaches us how to work with these attributes? Where? You know, we're all caught up in the same system that has downgraded and thumbs down, dumbed down, I don't know what the word is, our humanity, where we are taught now to follow policy, to be good little Europeans or whatever, to follow the dictates of an emperor. So, you know, we're not taught how to be us, how to use the resources that the Creator has given us. Very powerful resources. And we get into high sensing, and I just talked about that. Mystic yearnings. If you have mystic yearnings, I call these little young people, these small people, the youth that are gifted as mystics, because they're very much loners. You'll see a high gifted person, very much a loner. Those of you that are loners, you probably fit into that category. You are a loner. You don't want to be in a public like this. And so there are different ways that mystics are really about us engaging with ourselves to try to understand how these dreams, the visioning, intuition, high sensing, how they are working within us, in our interior, how we are constructed as a being with you know, feelings, emotions, intellect, and all that, the spirit, the soul. These, you know, it's the indigenous people of this nation that have tried to grasp and hold on to those ideas right across the nation. And if you want to make advances in humanity, you're not going to go to Trump. You're not going to go to Trudeau. Who are you going to go to that have tried hard in their relationship with the spirit and the environment, nature, supernature, that have tried to hold on to those truths that our old people talked about, what we call the teachings? So creativity is a part of it. If you're a loner and you're very creative, and lo and behold, if you are an anxious person, anxiety is a mental health problem in our society. That's what it's been pathologized as. Anxiety is a mental health problem. We give pills to young people with anxiety, and they tell us we see dark figures in the dark, and we give them some more pills. And then eventually it comes to the point where we start locking them up in mental institutions because we have not read humanity right in the way that they are constructed as gifted people. And so downloading is another one. All of you have done downloading in different ways. That is a craft. That is a mystery. That is a very effective tool. That's why we don't have these elders, you know, carrying around bundles and briefcases and all these, the knowledge that they've collected all these years. They just come with how they are. You ask them a question, they'll say, they want to tell you exactly. Hang on a minute, I'll download. But that's what happens essentially. That's the secret.
We have to wrap up, Willie. We have to wrap up.
Okay. So there's this word, Scotiabank says, you're richer than you think. I always run to the bank because I have an account at Scotiabank when they say that you're richer than you think, you know. And this applies to this idea that how we can use our humanity, interior resources, our internal giftedness to make things happen, to make things really happen, to make to move mountains. We'll put it that way. especially in this very, very fragile intersect where human communities meet. It's very fragile. You look around the world, you got wars all over happening. You have climate change, you have all these things happening because somebody is not listening to what we have as human beings. And so they, you know, my friend who passed away, an elder, Dave Crowshoe, used to tell people, you know, you're going to be a leader someday. When I go to different communities, I tell people, you're going to be a leader someday. And they said, how can we be leaders? You know, I'm just pulling welfare. I even walked to this conference. I have no power, and I can hardly speak English and stuff like that. They deny this idea. But he said, he tells them, remember how long your people have been engaged with supernature. How long, how many centuries have our people talked to the Creator? How long, how many centuries have our people used our gifted tools, we'll say, to address the Mother Earth and the sun, the thunderbirds, the wind, the buffalo, you name it. How many centuries have our people made friendships with all that's out there, the unseen? How many centuries? Do you think that friendship, those friends, the spiritual beings we have befriended, do you think they're going to let us down in times of need? And that's why Dave Crowshoe used to tell them, that's why you're going to be leaders, because that's what it's going to take to move mountains into the future, in the future. That there we have to depend on something much more than policy and regulation and institution and funding to make matters happen, especially where people encounter, cultures encounters, knowledge worlds encounter, and so forth and so forth. So just a reminder that, you know, we are the possibility. Well, we'll end it right there. I don't want to go beyond.
Can I have a seat? Can I have a seat? Thank you so much.
So thank you so much for your presentation, thought-provoking presentation, Professor Ermine. And as you may know, the Indigenous Strategy is grounded in the concept of ethical shared space, and we have a little bit of time for question and answers. There is a QR code people know how to use in the audience. If you want to put a question on there, that'd be great. We've got time, I think, for just a couple. But I had the pleasure of reading one of your papers, and I wanted to ask you a question about gifted spaces. Can you elaborate a little on what values or perhaps mindset individuals need to bring into this gifted space to ensure dialogue is authentic and respectful? And I'm thinking about my discussion with my spouse tonight, so please give me as much guidance as you can.
Well, it's more of a process, I think, you know, that any of the traditions that we know of, they have their masters. They have their teachers, they have their processes that they teach. And they even single out people that might be worthy, that they would trust that they'll continue these traditions. So I think Reg can answer that as much as anybody else, but that doesn't exclude any of us, though, that we are all gifted with these same traits, these and sometimes, you know, we are forced to disengage from those kind of realities when we are stuck in the administrative, the policy, the regulation, the domination, in that kind of world, disengages us from our real selves where we can dream. We have to dream first before we can make changes. We have to dream to envision what possibilities we can do. It takes people to dream. Institutions and regulations and policy do not dream. It is us that has to dream. And anybody can do that if we choose to.
Great. So a question from the audience. Do you have any words of encouragement for Indigenous students working towards sustaining a post-secondary education? It's difficult at times being an Indigenous person in a Western institution.
Yeah, for sure. I think they just have to realize that, I know there are a lot of Indigenous youth that say, I don't know anything about my own people or my culture or even my language. I disagree with that completely, because that would assume that once we're born, we just come with our birth and whatever we have. But we have ancestors, we have bloodlines, lineage. That giftedness I was talking about, it travels through lineage. And that's why you have to learn your own history, your own lineage, in order to identify where it comes from. So I would tell Indigenous students, no, if you pursue education, in most times, when you get to that university, even at the master's level, and you will know that you're the smartest person in that room, because you know the Indigenous knowledge, but you're also studying this European Western knowledge. And when you have, and at any given moment, when you have these different knowledges, you're the smartest person. And smart can be, in a different way.
Yeah, that's really helps highlight that gifted space, putting those two knowledge systems, at least working with them together, which really does make you the smartest person in the room. But one of the questions that came from the audience is, how can we support our gifted relatives who are loners and lost in their ways so that they can use their gifts and live in a good way?
It's a gift to see a gifted person. First of all, let me put it this way. When we start thinking about giftedness and the traits and what gifted people might exhibit, or what to look for, or the condition that they're in, when we start to think of our humanity in terms of giftedness and the optimums of our humanity, our paradigm shifts. We start to see it in people. We start to create it in how we function and kind of the work that we do, to influence the work that we do. It starts to happen. And so these traits, and there are a number of them, like being aloneness, to cherish, to be alone, to be silent, to be absolutely by yourself. That's why your teenagers, they celebrate when you leave them home for the weekend. They're just, they love to be silent. And that's the soul talking. We're talking about soul matters. The soul, that's the deepest of ourselves that we can ever go to try to understand how that soul talks to us and how we follow the directions of the soul. It's at that level that we are talking about when we're talking about giftedness, and the ethical space is sort of the doorway, I think, to that world. And we can all choose to understand that. It's not very cultural specific. Although our people, the Indigenous people all across the globe, in fact, they've held on to those.
in the midst of outlawing and in the midst of genocide, in the midst of all these things that have happened, we have kept to try to hold on to those. And we continue today.
So thank you so much for enlightening us about our gifted space, our ethical spaces. Michael?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ed and Willie. As today's event draws to a close, on behalf of myself and an amazing team that makes up the Office of Indigenous Engagement, as well as the Office of the Provost, we want to take a moment to express our gratitude for everyone's presence and participation, not just in today's event, but participating in our commitment towards fulfilling the recommendations put forward in the taa'poh'to'p. It has been a powerful and moving experience, at least for myself, and I suspect for many of us here. I'm deeply grateful for the stories shared to start us off, the wisdom imparted in the various things that you have seen today, and the community that we've gathered here to celebrate our collective progress. I also want to take a moment to reflect on how much has changed and how far we have come over this year. November 2024 marks another year of transformation and meaningful intercultural capacity building here at the University of Calgary. Grounded in compassion and informed by community, taa'poh'to'p continues to guide our campus in engaging with transformative reconciliation through acts of decolonization and indigenization, focusing on the 4 pillars of knowing, doing, connecting, and being. We have walked this path with guidance from our knowledge keepers, many who are here today, and of course the many who are showing us how to keep walking right here on stage. With their guidance and with receiving the cultural gifts that we have received, the transfers along the way as we continue to move forward, including a Blackfoot name, all of these have become important for us in moving forward in a good way. These practices are foundational to our work and embody this concept of being together in a good way. It speaks to us working with purpose, integrity, moral strength, and a communal spirit. University of Calgary remains committed to supporting the Truth and Reconciliations Commission's call for reconciliation through education and has continued to build strong relationships with Indigenous communities. The work we do in the spirit of reconciliation is ongoing. Moments like today serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of continuing this journey with respect, understanding, commitment, and I would suggest gifted spaces. It truly has been a privilege to witness the stories shared and to reflect on the collective progress we've made together on our journey of reconciliation. This widespread engagement received reflections of ongoing transformation on our campus and a growing recognition of Indigenous knowledge systems. As Jonathan mentioned, more than 10,000 faculty, staff, students, and community members took part in Indigenous focus events this year at the University of Calgary. That's incredible. That's us moving forward together. Before we close, I would like to extend a traditional gift. Really, I would. To Dr. Willie Ermine, whose keynote address has truly enriched our understanding of the path forward. Okay. I also would like to acknowledge Reg and Rose for the guidance that they continue to provide for us. And I do want to acknowledge all the elders who also provide us guidance, and your leadership, your understanding, your patience with us, with myself I should say, is truly remarkable many times. So I want to offer these to each of you. So at this time I call upon Elder Reg Crowshoe to close our ceremony in a good way and offer his final words and blessings to guide us as we continue on this journey. So, Reg?
I think this is the time when I was going to tell Willie, I think now is the time I can say, what do you say? Miwa sin wahwa. I just, listening to my friend, we've known each other for a number of years, and we've had a few crazy experiences along the road, but I think about, he's talked to his elders in Cree, he's done his research, he used his language, and he used that for many years to do his research and teaching. And I admire Willie for it, because I always look at knowledge is oral knowledge. And oral knowledge is not written. So we need the languages, we need the elders, and we need gifted spaces with the language and the elders so that we can ask questions on what we're researching. And that's critical with our Indigenous researchers to understand that gifted spaces are so important to connect with our oral knowledge and our elders. We need to somehow accommodate that as a resource so we can work with like the Indigenous Engagement here at the University of Calgary. When I was young, I was transformed as a relative into an age grade society. And our gifted space, our ethical space was made safe by the smudge. And when we came together and through song and oral process, it was safe to learn. But that was being transformed as a relative. All creations are relative. So whatever we got taught with, those were relatives. And our grandparents in the community, everybody was our grandparent. They taught us. They were our relatives. But when I went to residential school, before I went to residential school, we talked about all these gifts that Willie's talking about. And these gifts also come with a concept of invisible infrastructure. If you do something wrong that you're not supposed to do, you're going to suffer from it, or your family will suffer for it. So that's an invisible infrastructure that keeps our gifted spaces powerful to learn. And to become relative was so easy because it was a safe space. But when I went to residential school, it was the policies, whether it was the Indian Act, the Indian or the education policy, or child welfare policy, or the school policies, they were always on a sign in the classroom, and if you're going to run around in the classroom, you're going to get sent to the principal, and you're going to be dealt with in his office. So you look at those rules on the wall, we look at them as real infrastructure, because the principal is going to deal with you because it was written. But so I went through a transformation at that time that I call a transformation by conforming. And that's what I hear Willie talking about today. We can't be following those written policies and conforming everybody. We need to go back to that gifted spaces, that invisible infrastructure, that creativeness, and use those gifts to help humanity. And those are the bases that we learned from in our elders when we talk to them. So I just want to thank Willie for his presentation, and brought me back to a lot of the things we talked about, we learned from our elders. So thank you there, brother. I just want to close with a prayer, and then I'll probably get Rod to give us a good round dance. I want to fill all the circle here and in the aisles and all over. Have a good round dance. Okay, hi, taa'poh'to'p. Hi, onapi na tus. Okay, Christiquiki, tamo Chrisawat, Chispinan, and no, just Canopispinan. I am Strixi, Axa and Stans Kataya Nixo. Oh, Kispumos Dixo, Kitapix, taa'poh'to'p. Na meek shikam and ken nixo, Kitapix, stoppix. I spumos aus taa'poh'to'p. Oh, Kinokaspum, stay out, Ganuki, cheap and it could spumstano. I taa'poh'to'p, I'm stick out to Kisawoik, some stick. That's it, I'm sticky, that's it, so I spumos aus taa'poh'to'p, Machkapim, Skato, Sawanik, Kadasokapi. I think Makapatchini, Kato, Sawanik, Kamutanik, this to watch my taa'poh'to'p. Anna, thank you very much.
So thank you again, and may we walk forward together as relatives. Thank you, everybody. I think